a flood of friends here. Debbie, we have you on the phone, and in walked, I think, a mutual friend of ours as well, a good friend of mine, Sam Stone. So he's with us as well. How are you, Debbie?
Great. How are you doing, Seth and Sam? I hope you're all doing well, and I hope everyone had a very happy Thanksgiving.
You bet.
We did, and we hope the same happened for you and your family. And thank you so much for all the work you've been doing. Because we all know you're still working hard every day right through the end of your term, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we just got off the floor voting. And so, today we voted against funding for Iran and want to impose the sanctions on Iran because the Biden administration is so weak in Iran. So Republicans passed it out of the House. We'll see what happens in the Senate.
Wonderful, Debbie. Thank you. I want to talk to you specifically about two things, if I can, and Sam will join me in this because he's as expert as we are on, and more so than I am, certainly in some respects. First of all, this electric vehicle fiasco. Can you say a word about this and the taxpayers here, Debbie, please?
Yeah, this is the Biden administration and the Democrats mandating all electric vehicles. As many of your listeners probably already know, under Biden's EPA, there is a proposed tailpipe emission rule that would effectively mandate that 67% of all cars and light-duty trucks and 25% of all heavy-duty trucks that are manufactured by 2032 be all electric. And this is insanity, okay? It's insanity for a few reasons. First of all, the car dealers have told me and are telling Biden that people are not buying EVs. They used to be a waiting list at the beginning, but now they say these EV electric vehicles are sitting on their lots. They can't sell them. They have to discount them. They're losing money on it. The second thing is there's not enough charging stations. So that's one of the reasons people aren't buying them. And even though Biden and the Democrats passed this infrastructure bill with $7.5 billion in subsidies for new EV chargers, a new report just showed that no charger has been constructed from that program. And then, the demand on the electric grid is going to go up at the same time that Biden wants to get rid of baseload energy like natural gas. And it's a gift to China because China is the one that refines most of the lithium that's needed for the batteries and the other critical minerals. And then on top of that, just recently, the Texas Public Policy Report said taxpayers are on the hook for $50,000 for every electric vehicle sale. Unbelievable.
Congresswoman, it is unbelievable, and I'm sure you may have seen the Bank of America report that came out today or yesterday on energy issues that shows that if you take away all the subsidies, the equivalent cost to charge your electric vehicle to get as much power as you get from a gallon of gas is $17 and change. $17 and change.
Well, and it's just this, I don't know, it's like a religion with some of these liberals. There's some Democrats that have introduced legislation here in Congress that would say that anybody can legally immigrate to our country if their country is experiencing climate change. Well, in their view, climate change is everywhere, right? So that means the entire world should be able to legally immigrate into the United States. I mean,
I saw it this morning.
The insanity is over the top.
I saw it this morning. I was in Lukeville at the Lukeville port of entry this morning, Debbie. By the way, Congresswoman, do you have time? This was a short. Do you have time to stay with us a little bit longer, or do you got to run?
I sure do.
Great, because we'll take a quick commercial break and come back and talk a little bit about this other expertise of both yours and Sam's, the border. So I went down, I was telling the audience earlier, I went down early this morning to go see what was going on at the Lukeville port of entry, and it is the rest of the world. This was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people from West Africa. I'd like to talk with you both about that when we come right back. I'm Seth Leibsohn. He is Sam Stone, and Debbie Lesko is on. I got up so early, I need the reinforcements. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Seth Leibsohn Show. I have in studio with me our dear friend Sam Stone, and on the phone our equally dear friend Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, representing Arizona's 8th Congressional District. We're talking about electric vehicles and that contretemps, but we're going to talk about the border too in a moment. Debbie, Congresswoman Lesko, if you don't mind, Sam wanted to share one more thing on the electric vehicle scandal before we transition to the border, because it's kind of an interesting way to transition it.
Congresswoman,
sounds great.
There's a study that came out about a year and a half ago or so that shows that if we're electrifying the fleet by 2030, the way they're talking about 2035, every truck stop in America will require as much or more power as a large town or a small city. But there's no plan. Do Democrats pushing this have any plan to actually produce that power to do this, or are they planning on just leaving everyone high and dry?
Well, and it's even worse than that, Sam. So thank you for bringing this up, because at the same time that they want to put every single vehicle on the electric grid by having them plug in somewhere, Biden is just adamant about taking away American-made oil and gas. So doesn't want, right now in Arizona, the majority of our electricity is produced at plants that use natural gas. It's a base load energy. It's constant, right? And so they want to take that away. You can't use that, but at the same time, everybody plug in their vehicle and truck throughout the entire world. And so it makes absolutely no sense, but they don't care. They don't care. They just push this agenda because they're obsessed about it.
There's Seth, I see this, and Congresswoman, I'm sure you see it even closer than I do every day. There is an endemic lack of seriousness on the left right now when it comes to policy. Even the things they're pushing, they're not serious about how to execute them. And that is really making this entire political, Congresswoman, how do you have a discussion with these folks when they're not talking about things in the real world and the challenges that they're actually going to face to implement their own ideas? It's just insane.
Yeah, and it's very frustrating here in Congress, because it seems like we talk past each other. There are a few Democrats that are reasonable. Changing subjects a little bit, but I'll give you an example. Today, we were in a hearing with a CDC director, right? And I asked the CDC director, will cloth masks prevent somebody from getting COVID-19? And she was like, yes. And I was like, okay. Even though the openings in the cloth masks are bigger than the size of COVID-19, and a Democrat from California said, well, I think that's a legitimate question, and you didn't give a good answer to the CDC director. So I was like, every once in a while, you get a Democrat that actually listens and agrees with you, but it's pretty rare.
We've got a CDC director who apparently uses chain link fence as mosquito netting.
Well, I thought we were done with cloth masking as a concept here for mitigation to at least 2 years ago, Debbie. This NPR was putting out stories on this. Michael Osterholm, who was one of the most famous epidemiologists in the country before Anthony Fauci came on the scene, said, and a Democrat and an advisor to Joe Biden, said cloth masks don't work. They need to go outside and come back in and get their story straight, don't you think?
Well, I tell you what, on the CDC site, they still talk about, cloth masks. Now, They say that other ones are better, like the N95 is the best, and then surgical masks. No. But they still have cloth masks on there saying that they work.
Well, she said it. And we have a director of Homeland Security who says the border is secure. We have a president who says the border is secure. I went down there this morning, as I was mentioning earlier, Congresswoman Lesko. Hundreds, and by the end of the day, it will be thousands. And they are not from Mexico. They are not from Central or South America. This group, and has been for days on end now, West Africa. This is, and they are not being detained. They're being processed. And you know what that means, don't you? It means that they are given a name, any name they want, by the way, because they can come up with any name they want because they ditch their ID at the fence, at the wall they break through. And then they're released into society at large, wherever they want to go, with a promise on their own recognizance that they'll come back for a hearing when we get to it. This is insanity, Debbie. I'm sorry, Congresswoman.
Well, it is insanity, and it's a national security risk because, as you know, I think it was 161 people or 169 people in the last fiscal year that they caught that were on the terrorist watch list.
Right.
You know, so of all of these people coming over, we don't know who they all are. They could give a fake name. And we don't know where they're living. We don't know where they're going. And on top of it, taxpayers are paying to transport them a lot of the time. And now you have Democrats sponsoring legislation that basically everybody should be allowed into the country if there's climate change in their country, because apparently it's an existential threat to them. So they should all come to America, even though if it's a worldwide problem, it makes no sense because they would die here too, right? But, it's insanity, and it makes no sense. It's a huge national security risk, and that's why Republicans keep passing legislation in the House, because we only have control over the House. We don't have control over the Senate. We don't have control over the presidency. So we can only do what we can do. We passed legislation back in May that would implement the policies that Trump had in place that just automatically reduce the amount across the border, like remain in Mexico, meaning that you have to remain in another country while your asylum claim is being processed. You can't go into the country of the United States and just go anywhere you want. That would automatically reduce it. And I tell you what, our Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is talking with the Republicans in the Senate, and now they are on board. We are going to use whatever leverage have in order to get border security. So if Biden wants Ukraine funding, we're going to attach security to it. And Senator Thune, the whip over in the Senate, was at a meeting we had, and he's agreeing with it. The Senate Republicans are standing with the House Republicans, and I hope we stick with it.
Thank you. I guarantee you, Congresswoman, both of us here in the studio and everyone listening out there right now has our fingers crossed for all of you to get that done. Because, Seth, I didn't really run the numbers, but if you think about it, Biden has now let 1 out of every 50 people in this country has come here illegally under Joe Biden.
No, that's right. At the rate we're going, 10% of the country will be an illegal immigrant within a couple of years. Yeah. Debbie Lesko, God bless you and Godspeed to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Beth, and thank you, Sam.
Congresswoman, pleasure speaking with you.
Sam and I will be right back.